we're thrilled to have as our guest Chef Sarah Hassler of Hassler Hospitality Group. Okay.
Gotcha. Love it. Love it.
All
Hello,
right.
everyone.
So Sarah, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. We're going to be talking about texture. And a big reason that I wanted to do it is because I was introduced to one of your wonderful dishes at your event, Dining Inside Out, which you're about to have another one, the second one tomorrow. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about that a little bit because I think it's a great concept and obviously wildly successful. So tell us a little bit about what people can experience if they are a guest of Dining Inside Out.
Great. So Dining Inside Out is a virtual dining experience. We started it to as a way to give people respite during the time of the pandemic and everyone being isolated. And we kind of knew that, you know, as chefs, that's what people come to restaurants for, and we miss that when we're just thinking about the food or takeout or whatever. Like you don't understand the rest of it, the connection. So we decided that what if we, you know, the question was, what if we can connect chefs from way up in Utica with chefs from all the way down in Corning, New York, and what if we all created the food and, you know, wrote a menu together and got all of our diners together in one big Zoom room. So that's what we did for the first one. We connected 4 chefs across 4 cities, and sorry, we're actually packing right now around me. It's kind of a chaotic time. But anyway, so as a diner, you order a meal. It's 4 courses, and you can either choose an omnivore or the beef option typically, or a vegetarian. We try to be as accommodating as possible. This time we actually did some really fun enhancements. So you could order a cheese board, a cocktail box, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, a bottle of wine. We did Damiani Wine Cellars this time as our featured winery, and it's really like a celebration of New York food. Love it. Love your photos. They're beautiful. It gave people an opportunity to, you know, to make it their own, to get dressed up, set the table as you did, beautiful tablescape, and have, you know, an intimate meal, but also be connected with other people eating the same food. And so we put people in private tables so that you could have a private video chat with your friends. And food and all of that, the stuff that you're missing when you're just eating takeout and it's just another Netflix night, you know. So this time it's pretty exciting. We actually launched a shipping option. So not only were we connecting people just in New York State, but we're connecting people with their family and friends across the country. We shipped, all of the shipping boxes went out yesterday as far as Montana, Florida, Colorado. Again, the Van Slyke family has family in Utica and in Vail, and we connected them last time just virtually. And this time, you know, they actually have the same food. And so, yeah, it really brings that like feeling of celebration and just being connected, which is what restaurants are really about. That's the restorative nature. So this time is very exciting. We are doing cocktail boxes, and I just want to take a quick minute. So one cocktail box add-on in this time gets you 2 bottles of Last Shot bourbon, which is, these are each 6 ounces. So you get 12 ounces of bourbon, which is enough for 4 really good cocktails. And we're doing an old-fashioned cocktail this time. So we have bitters from Finger Lakes Harvest. These are blood orange bitters. They do all natural fruit shrubs and bitters. So these are chock full of organic ingredients and antioxidants, really good for your immune system. Not saying the alcohol is, but you're adding good things. And then also we have Farmer Street Pantry. What do you know? Your spiced cherries, which are delicious. I actually made a Manhattan with these a couple of nights ago and loved it. And then some all-natural sugar cubes and an orange, and we're going to do a demonstration on the video. to show you how to make that cocktail with the artisan ingredients and really like unite those things, bringing together farmers, chefs, artisans, bartenders, all the pieces, but it's now in your home and you're still getting that face time with your friends. And the other thing that I think is really cool and unique about this that we didn't really expect was that you get more face time with chefs. Like if you come to a dinner or a large event with several chefs at a restaurant, we are running around and making sure all the things are happening and making sure things are going. You're not going to get that much face time. You might get a question or two, but in this experience, you really get that like time with the chef to like think about, what questions do you have, whether it's, how do you peel your vegetables or how do you, what your favorite dish is or any of those things. But you can really get more in depth and have some more of an intimate experience, which is not something that we planned, but that is something that happens from this. And so it's something we plan to continue. We have 2 more happening this month, one for Mother's Day and another at the end of the month that's going to be a vegan event, actually, a completely vegan food, vegan menu. And all of this information can be found on dininginsideout.com. That's where you can get a hold of me and connect and buy tickets. The one for tomorrow is sold out, so I'm not selling any tickets for that today, but we are, not only are we doing the other 2 events, but we're helping some other people host their events since we have all the technology in their organization down to a system. We are now going to help more and more people connect, and I'm just really excited about it. So it's an honor to be here chatting with you, Lynn. I know you were at the last one. Your plates are beautiful. But yeah, so that's Dining Inside Out.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. So tell us again what the farthest plates, where they're going to go to travel for this event.
Montana, I think, is the farthest. Montana or Colorado, depending upon which way you go, right? But we also had some guests in Florida that we connected, and yeah, it's crazy to me. But it's interesting because it's families that don't get to see each other anyway. Even if we weren't inside of a pandemic, without hopping on an airplane, now they can connect, and eat the same food and have the same shared experience. And this time we have a cheesemaker coming on to talk. Barry Sparrett from 2 Kids is coming on to chat about his chefs. We have the winemaker from Damiani coming in to chat. We're doing a cocktail demonstration, which is really cool. Because I just love to see all that, So it's a little bit more interactive this time, and I'm really excited about it.
Now, is there a way that people can just view the event?
So this is live streamed onto YouTube, and we will be sharing that on Dining Inside Out's Facebook. So if you follow Dining Inside Out on Facebook, which is facebook.com/dininginsideout, you can watch just the stream. You can't necessarily participate as far as questions. That's just for our guests, but you can definitely check out what is this experience. And our last one is actually posted on our YouTube channel, linked at the same spot.
Oh, okay, great. Wonderful. Well, it's going to be, I'm sure, a delight for many people, and I'm sure you have a lot of new dining guests that are going to be introduced to the chefs. And so the chefs are yourself
and Luke Houghton, yes, of Pure Market and Eatery, Pure Catering and Events, all things Pure, and Chance Bear of the Link Lane House, and also Hannah Covello, who's a pastry chef and kind of a hidden gem. She's not at a restaurant right now, but she has 2 degrees from the CIA, and it's just incredible. I mean, she's a sommelier, she's a cicerone, and a pastry chef. She's just like an all-star. So she's doing the cheesecake this time, which is still really, really delicious, and also has chocolate from Tyler at Nostalgia in it. We did his oat milk white chocolate for the bark. Delicious. So good.
That's great. Sarah, are you noticing at this time anybody else doing something similar? Because people in the food industry are looking at new ways of connecting with their customers.
Yes. I have definitely seen like a trend going this way. I don't know that anybody's doing it exactly the same way, but we have been fielding a lot of phone calls and emails and things about like, we want to do this. How, can you help us? People are having to lean more into tech than they ever have. I was fortunate enough to be a nerdy kid, so this is all okay for me. But I definitely understand where it's not a strength that most chefs certainly have. And just it's a major organizational and logistical challenge to connect all of these pieces and make sure that the food is right and the tech is right and that everyone knows what to do. Because no one needs more anxiety during this time, certainly. Right. So, but yeah, I have seen a lot more of these things, and we are doing what we can to connect those people and like share, and help, because it is. For us, it was really incredible, like just emotionally incredible, that experience at the end of it, like the response that we got back from people, that makes us want to just spread it like wildfire.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. That it's so encouraging. And do you think that restaurants will maybe continue this in the future when we're on the other side?
I hope so. I do think so from the response that we have received. We had probably a 70% return rate on our guests from the previous one. And people are now, so those people are now inviting their family in and kind of just growing that nucleus. And I recognize that that's during a pandemic, but I think that they are, because they're getting to connect with those family members far away, that's not going to change. Those people will still live far away. So I think that this really does give something unique to people. It also touches on introverts like myself who don't necessarily want to go to a restaurant all the time. You can hang out and drink as much as you want and just, roll into bed after the wine's gone. It's okay. It's very safe, So I think there's some like added benefits to it that really help.
So we're maybe in a new era of eating and experiencing and sharing food with starting in our own kitchens. So let's get into our own kitchens using your setup for Dining Inside Out from last time. I'll show a photo here, hopefully, of the dish that you did, which is called Running Hot and Cold. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoy that and I thought that it might be a great exemplar for our concept of texture today, because you had some great contrasts in texture using vegetables, which is, I think we all agree that we need to really enjoy food, and we need to know and understand and appreciate vegetables. And you did a wonderful salad. I did a little mock-up here.
I love it.
So could you describe some of the components that went into your dish?
Absolutely. So this dish was, it was based on just like how things were happening, at the moment, because everything was suddenly like, oh my God, hot, and this is what you have to do, and then just nothing. So we were all running hot and cold at the time. So the potatoes are called fondant potatoes, also known as melting potatoes. They're basically sliced thick slices that you sear in butter with some herbs and then add stock to and finish in the oven. So they're very like melting kind of, they're delicious and unctuous, and I love them. Mm-hmm. So that's the potatoes. The celery root we salt baked. So we just took the whole root, which is awesome that you have one. I know it looks scary. I totally understand.
It looks like Hermione's going to make some polyjuice potion with it.
Yes, it really does look like a mandrake, actually, now that we're talking about it. But so we took that and baked it in salt overnight, low, like 200 degrees, just in the salt. And the salt actually, because it is hydroscopic, it's water seeking, right? It goes into the center of the vegetable and draws that water back out. And through the process of osmosis, you're seasoning the inside and breaking down the fibrous nature. So it really softens it, and just makes it taste delicious. So that's your salt baked celery root. Beautiful. And then we layered those two pieces. So you had like the soft melting potato and a little bit firmer on the salt baked celery root. and then we contrasted that with a cold celery salad. So for this, we made ribbons. So we peeled celery just using a vegetable peeler and some ice water to really shock it. Yep, exactly. So we just peeled down the back of it, right, until we couldn't anymore. It's easier if you do it on the table, but way harder to do for a demonstration.
I'll try it right here.
Okay, awesome. So we made these ribbons, peeling that off, and then shocked them in really, really cold ice water for about 20 minutes up to an hour. Perfect. You got ribbons going. And what that does is it tightens the cell walls of the vegetables so that they then curl really beautifully. Perfect. That's beautiful. So that curl happens as the vegetable is like shrinking away from the ice. Beautiful. And that provides an added crunch because you're really like activating pectin and cell walls there that gives it more crisp and crunch texture. Exactly. Beautiful. So we tossed that with some citrus vinaigrette on the side and a little Syracuse flake salt, which is one of my favorite things in Syracuse. And boom, done. It was a very simple dish. It took quite a few hours just for the background processing. But once we got there, it was really just a celebration of vegetables and really humble vegetables. I mean, celery and potatoes, like, come on, you can't get like more lowbrow and yet still, be fancy.
But and if no one has tried celery root before, it's really you see it a lot in Mediterranean cooking, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's you can eat it. You don't just have to bake it. You can eat it raw, right?
Totally. Yes. Raw celery root salad is delicious as well. It's a little bit different in texture. People don't always love it. I love to slice it thin on a mandolin and dress it with pomegranates and some poppy seeds. Just, delicious. The interesting thing about celery is that as an ingredient, it enhances other flavors, right? And so I loved cooking the celery root in salt because both of those things enhance one another, and they are also just like the great helpers of the culinary world. Adding celery to something makes it taste more of itself, just as salt does. It's right. That under flavor that it's like, oh, what is that? Actually, it just is enhancing everything else.
Right. So in a mix of root vegetables, it helps bring those flavors forward.
Absolutely.
So what can you say about texture and its enhancement of flavor? What are things that you're looking for when you're cooking and considering texture?
So I'm French trained, but when it comes to like how I put a plate together, I follow more of a Chinese style, actually more of a Kung Fu style. So everything in Kung Fu is a circle, right? Everything comes back to itself. So for every plate that we put together when we're designing a menu, I like to go around the circle of flavors first. So we, start with sweet, salty, umami. Make sure we have acidic and a little bit of bitterness in there to round it out, literally. And then we do the same thing with texture, especially when it comes to either vegetarian things or desserts, because they often are just soft. And we forget to add something crispy, something crunchy, and those are two different things. And, something that has a bit of like chew to it, along with something soft and melty or, and again, then playing with temperatures. That helps too. But the more textures that you can add to a plate, the more interest there is in your mouth, and it makes you think, oh wow, like I really want to take another bite because this tastes different this way. Maybe this piece of cabbage was cooked a little longer than this piece, and they taste totally different. But it adds interest, right, to your plate and your palate, and it keeps you excited for the whole, 10 minutes that it may be. But I hope that it's worth it because it took you however long to make it.
Right. Right. Do you ever?
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to. Do you ever layer on, for example, celery root? Would you ever do something where you have cooked and raw celery root?
Absolutely, yes. Because the salt bake technique really softens everything, and then the raw technique, especially when you add a little bit of acid to it, again you get that tightness. Now you're tasting the same vegetable in two totally different ways. And it really is more of a celebration of that vegetable. And you only had to buy the one thing, which is great. Right? That keeps things simple.
Now, do you find that people generally have favorites and dislikes in terms of texture? What are there foods that just by their taste might be fine, but people object to the texture?
Mushrooms is the big one, and I'm sad about this because personally I love mushrooms, but it always comes down to texture with mushrooms. And if you don't know how to cook them properly, whatever that means, then I can understand why people wouldn't want that. I also see that with tofu. But one tip on cooking mushrooms, if the mushrooms have so much water in them. And so when you are cooking them in a pan, if there's oil in the pan or butter or whatever it is, or even if they're like roasting in the oven, you want to make sure there's enough space in between each mushroom. Like there should be, it's almost like cookies, you don't want them to bleed into each other, because if they sit on top of one another, they sweat. And then you get mushy, sad mushrooms, and you don't get that like crisp browning that you want. And that browning, which is Maillard reaction, and a little bit of caramelization of the sugars that are in there, that's where the flavor's coming from. And it's also that texture that makes it like, oh man, I need another bite of that. You're removing the water, and the water's evaporating, dissipating. If they're sitting on top of each other, they're just sweating to death. It's like being in a bad gym locker room. You don't want that, especially now if mushrooms are involved.
So that's a great suggestion for a technique for mushrooms, and I'm sure other things that you don't want to turn mushy, but you want to keep that caramelization to give it texture. So don't crowd the pan.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, that's important when it comes to mushrooms, scallops. I mean, you name it. Anything that you're cooking that you want to sear on, you don't overcrowd the pan. Definitely use a larger pan, or do it in a couple of batches.
Okay. How about speaking of mushrooms, someone just asked a question about mushrooms, about salting mushrooms. When do you do that or don't?
So, well, it comes back to the hydroscopic conversation, because that salt is water seeking. I don't salt them before they go in the pan, but my method is typically hot pan first, then you add oil to the pan, and then the mushrooms in, give them a little bit of space, now add the salt. That's going to help to draw that water out and crisp them up again. So I have never heard of not adding salt to mushrooms. I've heard of like not washing them, which is nonsense. You can wash your mushrooms. It's going to be okay. You're not adding extra water to it. Dry them thoroughly, but you can feel free to clean them in any way that you want to. But yeah, I've never heard of that. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, well, I've seen several things where you hold off on salting until the end, so that you can get the caramelization. You don't have the release of water.
The water, yeah,
to prevent the caramelization from happening.
The only other thought I have, I agree with not salting mushrooms if you're cooking all in like one big clump, because you're just drawing out sweat. But if they have enough space, you kind of want that salt to happen, because you want that water to come out as quickly as possible. But the other thought that I had is, if you are sensitive to salt, as that water is coming out, you're really concentrating flavor. So salting closer to the end, not such a bad idea, because you get more of an idea of how much mushroom really is there after the water's all cooked to how much salt you're going to use. Right. So I could see that, definitely.
So just one last thing. I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot before we'll let you go. Okay. I know you're really busy, and I really appreciate your time with us. I'm just going to put this up. Chef Sarah Hassler at Sarah T. Hassler. If you'd like to check her out on social media, on Instagram, please do. I think the event tonight is wonderful, and you're so generous with your time with us today. But quick 3 questions. So for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if you could give a suggestion for how to add texture at breakfast, lunch, soup, salad, that kind of thing, dinner, entree, actually for any of those opportunities, do you have some tips?
I mean, breakfast, toast, long live bread, it's going to be the way I am. That adds all the texture, whether it's simple avocado toast, or I am that basic, or poached eggs and toast. that's a simple thing to add something crisp and beautiful, and you should put butter on the toast because that adds another level of texture in between there. So that's simple. For lunch, I'm a big fan of salads. Both Luke and I love to celebrate vegetables. Just as chefs, we're always looking for vegetable first, meat second, if at all, because of the different textures. Adding a combination, as you said, Lynn, of cooked and raw in a salad. Like, don't be afraid to use like cold cooked potatoes in a salad. They're delicious, especially with like a beautiful creamy vinaigrette. I also really love to add seeds and nuts to my salads, like sunflower seeds. Super simple, and inexpensive, but an easy way to just add that extra, like, oh, that's so good. And then for dinner, I'm actually going to do a snack instead, because dinner, like I would just say, add more vegetables. But for one of the things that I love texturally, it was kind of weird, is popcorn, but I like some of the popcorn to be a little bit soggy. I know this is so strange. But so adding in something,
like,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's like, but I'm not a big fan of the buttery popcorn. I like olive oil and nutritional yeast. But a friend of mine just recently told me to put like pickled jalapenos in there because it gives it a little bit, like, it sucks up some of the juice. And so you get some crunchy pieces, right? And then also, and I've heard of this with horseradish as well, like popcorn and horseradish together. So it's like spicy, but also a little bit soft. Kind of interesting. I don't know. Check it out. Play with it.
Very interesting. Oh my gosh, those are great suggestions. Well,
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I know you need to run back to the kitchen. Really appreciate it. So, bye-bye.
Thank you so much. This is a pleasure.
Best of luck.
Thank you. Yeah. Cheers. I will see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, oh my gosh, that was wonderful. Again, if you want to check out the show, Dining Inside Out is, you'll be able to view it and go to the website for tickets for doing that. Well, thank you so much. We're I'm afraid at the end of our time. I hope you picked up something. Thank you for your questions. Those of you that are on with us, tune in again next week. We will let you know what the topic's going to be for Food Talk Live with Farmer Street Pantry. Really appreciate you being here. Thanks for your support. Be well. Bye-bye.